What up, y'all, and welcome back to another Pokemon Pocket video. It's your boy Ben here, and we are giving you all a meta update as to the best new decks that you should be playing right now. With a round of tournaments that just occurred over the weekend, we actually get a new cream of up and coming decks that you can get ahead of right now, so that way you can catch your opponents off guard and come out on top with some surprising factors. So let's go ahead and just kind of dive through all the possibilities that kind of came out from this weekend. So as we go through these decks, just know that they are all above 70% win rates in these competitive scenes, so that's really awesome. And taking a look at this deck right here, it features Crobat, Judgeodon, and Arceus EX, and you're running fire and water energy. That's right, you're not looking to power up your Crobat, you're actually looking up to power up your Judgeodon, which is a good case here, because even with the Cunning Link and Darkness Fang, you're doing 80, and you can do Cunning Link and a Dragon Claw for 120 to that active spot. What's really cool here is that if you are bricking, and I put that in quotes, on energy, where you're just getting fires in a row or waters in a row, that's where Arceus will eat up that energy, because it is just 3 colorless, right? And what's really cool here is that because this will have some water on it, this will have some water on it, Irida still plays a fun factor of being included into this deck as a means of healing as well too, so that way you get some sustain on there. The game plan from this deck really is just to have your Judgeodon set up front while you're building up energy on the Arceus, building up energy on your Judgeodon if you have a second one out there, and then you're building up your Crobat so that way you can do damage on there. Ideal world is if you have 2 of these things plus an Arceus EX as well. It's crazy, but just to note that if you have a full bench, you are dealing 160 damage, which means opposing RCX through capes go down. If you have opponents attacking your Judgeodon in order to clear things, that also goes down as well too. So it's very, very hard for folks to live when you are going to be attacking back. Another strong deck that came out was this Stormy EX Palkia EX deck. So this is kind of not your 18 trainer deck, so to speak, but you're kind of only playing 4 Pokemon and the rest are trainer cards. So is what do we call this, 14 trainers? Or no, 5 Pokemon cards, so 13 trainers in a sense. There's still a lot of slots here. And what's really cool is that obviously you're going to start off with either your Staryu or your Palkia. You're running 1 Pokemon communication, so that way you can get right into this. This is kind of that feel where we had Executor and Celebi, but in this sense you're doing it for water, where you have your Staryu and your Starmie EX and your Palkia EX. You have your Iridas for sustain, for healing. Then you have your Missies for early game ramp up, so that way you can either get your Palkia EX online and winning you right off the bat, or even getting that first energy taking away from your opponent if you're going first, so that you can start cracking on that Starmie EX on the turn that you can evolve, and dealing 90 damage right away is super hard to deal with. You do run a potion in here, so again, it's all about living, sustaining that health, gaining that health back with these while you're putting on that pressure of 90 damage, having them going through this Starmie EX, having to go through a second Starmie EX, and then even loading up a Palkia EX. The fact that this thing can still retreat for free is great, but we do live in a world where Cyrus is a piece, and so Starmie EX can't safely hide behind the back, but you are putting up enough pressure. Hello, kitty. Hello, kitty. But you're putting up enough pressure where your opponents are going to lose pretty early on before they can even play out and deal that finishing blow to you. Here is another sweet Arceus EX deck. It is featuring Carnivine, featuring Rotom, and then you have Sky as Shaman as another basic here. When you're looking at it here, this Shaman acts as your X speed for these other 2 mons, and when Arceus EX is out, Rotom now has no retreat costs, and then for Carnivine, instead of dealing 1 energy for 20, you're dealing 1 energy for 50. So having this RCS EX out, Carnivine going and attacking for 50 damage right away just puts so much pressure on your opponents. That is a lot of damage to try to catch up and play behind, and because this is a non-EX mon, it's only worth 1 prize point. Putting things like Giant Cape, making this 100 HP, or even Rocky Helmet, so that way they're losing 50 damage on your attack and 20 when they're attacking you as well, really adds to this here. And then since these are all very low to the ground in terms of just how much energy that they need, you can power up your Carnivine and then focus on building up your RCS EX here as well, which really kind of makes it's a really good combination of attacking for cheap and early damage, and then finishing off whoever else with your RCS EX. And for those of them who are trying to hide in the back, your Rotom pairs up with your Cyrus here, so that way RCS EX can finish them off. What's really nice about this deck too is that it includes Giovanni, which we like don't see a lot of, but it's like kind of making its way back with like Dialga and RCS EX. But Giovanni allows you to reach opposing RCXs, RCS EX mons, because it's 140, you deal 130, and that's a great break point to have, so you can one-shot them once they are up in there. And then 140 feels kind of like the new kind of HP total that you want to hit, and being able to attack for that much damage really puts you in a good spot. Garchomp EX, Aerodactyl EX made a very good showing during this weekend as well, hitting above that 70% win rate, and it's really cool. You have your full line of Garchomp EX. You're running the fighting types for both the pre-evolutions in Gibbo and Gabite here, because RCS EX is the new shiny thing, with of course so many different cards of the abilities with Link that attach to it, that you often, more times than not, will run into an RCS EX deck, especially when going into the into a tournament. You're going to see that like RCS card a lot, and so for those oftentimes where they will have a bad start and start with RCS EX, you being able to attack 1 energy for 40 or 1 energy for 50 goes a long way. Garchomp EX dealing that 1 energy for linear attack, of being able to hit 50 anywhere on the board, is really nice, because you can pair that up with Cyrus to then clear them out with 100. Adding Aerodactyl EX as your secondary attacker here means that opponents have to go through 2 EX mons, and because it evolves directly from a fossil, you're always going to start on your Gibble here, making that even more consistent of trying to get your Garchomp EX. You have your Sabrinas, you have your Potion, you have your Giant Capes in here as well too. Notably, adding Giant Cape to Aerodactyl EX breaks that away from that 140 HP marker and putting it at 160, allowing it to survive some of those powerful attacks we see in the meta. Up next is probably one of my more favorite decks that are out right now, and like I would play a lot more of this deck, but like this is the deck that I've already covered before, but it is the RCS EX Infernape EX version with your Heatran, and even adding in a Rotom. What's really cool here is that like what happens, this deck answers the questions: what happens if I don't have enough energy on my RCS EX? Can we make it through? Or what if I don't have enough energy on my Infernape EX? Can we make it through? Heatran's ability of being able to have a free retreat, but also being able to attack for 2 energy for 40, but even, you know, more often than not 80, because it has such a high HP pool of 110, you're gonna get damage to it, so you're gonna be able to attack for 80. You attach on this Rocky Helmet to this thing right over here, and you're dealing massive amounts of damage. That free retreat cost, allowing you to be able to don up one of these fire energies to your Infernape EX and being able to attack for a second time, is really neat. Having 1 energy online on the Chimchar means that it's ready to go, so that way once you have this going, you can get your RCS EX powered up as well too. There's a lot of maneuverability. Words are hard. But with a deck like this, because free retreat, free retreat, right? Like you're dancing all over the board while dealing damage, massive damage, 140, 80, 20 to their bench, Cyrusing them up to then soften them up to this 140 here, which is like really nice. Opponents really do need to keep their eyes on their health, because these mons up here really set up for either an RCS EX swing or a Infernape EX swing, which comes at you really quickly if you're not paying attention to your board space. And so up next we have a Gallade EX deck, which like in our best X videos we saw that running Sudowoodos, 2 Sudowoodos and a Hitmonlee, but this deck is also doing really well in tournaments, is opting to run Regirocks and a Shaman here. So your Regirocks, you really want to start off and lead with this because of that exoskeleton taking minus 20 damage, the Shaman being able to heal up some residual damage to it, and we know that like being able to heal 10 damage per turn consistently goes a long way. Add a Rocky Helmet to this thing and you're already dissuading people from building this up. Will definitely give you time to get your Gallade EX working. What I really like about this deck is that you are playing just 5 basics, so it kind of leaves you a lot more room to really find your other pieces here, and you'll find that like often like a little bit like middle game that like this Pokemon communication will hit on like one of these 2 pieces that you're looking for, because by that time you're gonna have these cards close to, if not already in hand. You have the leaf here, so that way you can power, you'll first focus on just attaching 1 energy to Gallade EX to power it up, and then the rest of your energy goes to Regirock, right? So like you just need 2 energy for Gallade EX, so the fact that it deals 70 plus for 2 energy and getting 20 more based off of your opponent's active, you powering up this Regirock, you're also healing it to the side, and that's awesome. Having to go through 2 of these things, a 120 HP mon that takes 20 less damage, going through 2 of those and then finishing off with this Gallade EX makes this really hard to get through. And I'm like really cool to see if like Regirock serving as this tank, but also as a means to be able to attack. What would happen if fighting got a means to ramp? Like this card could go a long way once fighting gets something like that that's not just Brock. Up next we have this other version of the RCS in Carnivine deck, but instead of including the Rotom in there, they're including the Execute and Executor EX line. This is also really strong, but you may run into like, hey, I take out this Carnivine, therefore I only need to take out 1 more of these. However, this person piloted this deck really well to have such a high win rate, where this was very effective. Again, you're only using 1 energy for this Carnivine, using 1 energy for this Executor EX, and then the rest goes here. So you're dealing 50, up to 80, up to 130, and that is just a lot of damage. You get that sustained through Erica. The Leafs help you pivot between Executor into your RCS EX, no matter what the case may be, and having something like Giant Cape where this can live up to 180 or like 100, like there's still a lot more health that your opponent has to get through before they can even finish you off. So this is like a really cool deck. Again, Executor EX can show off its chops. Once again, one of the premier grass EX strong attackers that was like more reliable as well too. And speaking of which, we have the Executor EX, the Celebi EX deck here, primarily featuring Executor EX and having Celebi EX be off to the side since you are powering up your Executor EX here. This is kind of like shifted and gone off to the wayside because we've seen Leafeon EX kind of take the slot of Executor EX. You're able to deal for essentially 1-2 energy. I'm gonna put that there because Leafeon's ability allows you to grab 1 more energy from the energy zone to attack for 70 damage, and then you're just powering up your Celebi EX from there. However, this is still really good and really consistent because again, you only need 1 energy. You can deal up to 80. You have high HP, 160. 140 to 160 is a big difference here because Exeggutor EX with a cape lives in Infernape EX attack, whereas a Leafeon with a cape still gets one-shotted. So for the fact that you can live that kind of strong of attack and even including the weakness is a really big wall that allows you to continue to power up your Celebi EX. Another cool deck that we have here is this Dialga EX Pidgeot EX deck here. You're gonna see Mew EX and 1 RCS EX here as kind of like another means of using this Metallic Turbo ramp, which is really good because like if you don't get these cards, you might as well make sure that you get your Metallic Turbo to actually be of good use. You want to start off with your Dialga EX, but what's really fun here is that typical builds you're running Genetic Apex Pidgeotto because that's still 1 energy, but because you have Dialga here that's ramping energy anyways, if you need to attack for 50 you can, and that won't be too much of a problem because of that Metallic Turbo that's boosting this up here. We have Rocky Helmet, we have Giant Cape, but because we have so many Pokemon here, you still want to make sure that you still leave your room for your Cyrus, and they're opting to go with Giovanni instead of something like a Sabrina here. But again, I think that is big here. Again, reaching up to that 140 breakpoint is going to go a long way. Even to genome hacking RCS EX, that Giovanni will be able to crack that right back. I do like this Pidgeot EX kind of like a meta call, if you say, because RCS EX needs a full bench to deal a lot of damage, and therefore Pidgeot EX is able to eat, basically get to eat that up, because now you're dealing 140 because the RCS EX needed to fill that up. So I'll be interested to see if this is something that continues to grow here. Obviously this person was able to pilot it well, but the question here is can a lot of people do well against the RCS EX deck, but also all the other decks that we've talked about that are managing to do well as well too. And the last deck that we're going to talk about is a deck from the previous meta that was doing really well and is continuing to do so. It is your Skarmory Magnezone deck, being able to attack for 50 damage once again right away in the beginning through the use of Skarmory and the Pokemon tools is just such a big deal. We're seeing that with Sudowoodo being able to attack for that 50 right away. We're seeing that with the Carnivine. That's why people have really liked the Exeggutor being able to deal that high damage. Chipping away at your opponents is huge while you're building up in the back here, softening those Pokemon up for this Thunder Blast is going to be ideal for you. So going Skarmory Magnezone or Skarmory Magnezone while you're building up another one in the back. It's a lot of damage, quick damage, early damage that your opponents are going to have a hard time keeping up with. But yeah, y'all, I mean, this is kind of where the tournament scene is headed right now. But those are the decks that are creeping up through the meta after this weekend. I'm excited to see these and track these and see how these flow along. I can't wait to test some of these out myself this week. Let me know what was your favorite deck that you saw, and as always, go ahead, hit that like, subscribe, and click the notification bell button so you never miss out on a thing. Till next one, y'all. Peace.